In today's video, I will be showing how to make our player take damage and also have indicators that show the player's life is getting reduced bit by bit. So before we go ahead, let me show you what we are going to try and achieve. So, so our player is dead and he just walks out of the screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be explaining what is going on and probably redo some of the things I've already done. If you haven't watched the video on how we get the enemies to come after our player, you can go and watch my previous video. But if you have, then stick to this one. This video is mainly made for one of my students who I'm currently having classes with and who is all the way away from the country I reside in. So let's get started. Um, the first thing we're going to do is we have the enemy spawning, so we need our player to take damage. So the first thing we do is we will have a game manager. A game manager has information of the player's health and also has all the UI elements for the player's health indicator. So with the game manager, we can control how the UI elements behave and a couple of things. Now the next thing we have is the UI element. It's a simple UI element with the text and the hats, which are all plugged to the game manager here. So if I should open this, click on the game manager, expand the hat sprite, and if I click on it, you see it's selecting the three of them. So how did we get this up and running? The first thing we did was create a game manager script. I'm going to quickly show you what the game manager script looks like and I will quickly explain what it does. So this is our game manager script. Basically what we're doing here is we have an array of sprites which we declared here, an image array, and then we have the player's health, which is 3, which is initialized automatically from the game manager. So that's why we have it set to 3. Now in our update function, we just check for is the player alive. If the player is not alive, we set all the elements to black. You can see the sprite. We pick sprite 1, set the color to black, pick sprite 2, set the color to black, pick sprite 2, 3, set the color to black. Now let me show you what that does. If I select this red one, now the color is white. If I change it to black, then it looks like nothing is inside of it, no red element. So it gives the illusion of the player has lost his life. So that's basically what we are doing. So at this point, you have all black because it's game over and the player is dead. Else, if the player is not dead, we are going to check the state of the player's health. If the player's health is 3, then we know all of them are white. If the player's health is 2, then we know 2 are white and 1 is black. And if the player health is 1, then we know 2 are black and 1 is white, which is what you have there. Um, Now the next question is, how do we cause the player's life to come down or go up? For now, we're only handling taking damage. So we have this function here called take damage, and anytime it's called, it deducts 1 from the player's life, which means if it gets called, it will deduct from 3, so the player will have 2. If If you get scored again, it will deduct from 3, so the player will have 1. And if you get scored again, it will deduct from 1, so the player will now have 0, which is then we have game over. So that's basically what this is. Self-explanatory. Now the problem is, how do we call this function? So what I did is, if you click on our enemy AI script, in this code base, I made it so that if the bees hit the player, we use an enter trigger, because if we go to our B prefab, let's quickly go to our B prefab. If we go to our B prefab enemy, you can see here that the circle collider 2D is a trigger. So we set it to a trigger because we want it to just pass through the player. We don't want it to cause any form of like collision. So we're setting it to a trigger. So that's the main reason why in our code we are saying on trigger enter. So when this trigger enters into an object, we try to find out which object this trigger enters into, and then we determine what to do next. So the beautiful thing about Unity is that when this trigger enters something, we can say, okay, what is the name of this thing he entered, or what is the tag of this thing he entered. So for our player, we also came up with a tag. Our player has a tag here called player. So in our code, we said, okay, if this trigger enters into a tag, into any object, so what we did here is call the trigger. So you use this function on trigger and you let it know you're using a collider 2D. And now we're saying, okay, if this collider 2D, which is a trigger by the way, if it comes into contact with any object, check if that object, compare the tag of that object, does it match this tag here, player. And if it does match, the next thing we're going to do is call that function game damage, which means the player has taken a damage, which means the player's health is going to reduce by 1. And after all of that, we say, okay, destroy the object. So we don't need this object in the scene anymore after it hits the player, so we want the object to get destroyed. But before it does that, it causes take damage before it destroys itself. Good. So that explains how we're going to send the damage from our player, from our AI's enemy to our player. And as you can see in the game manager, it also handles, so long as the player life is going down, it also handles all of this. So that's just the beautiful part about this. It's quite simple and easy to do. Once you have that set, it's going to get done. Now for this trigger to work, this collider, circle collider 2D to work, either the object that is doing the hitting or the object that is receiving the hitting must have a rigid body. The two objects that are going to meet themselves and cause an effect, one of them must have a rigid body. In my case, both of them do have rigid bodies, so you know it's really not the best way to go. It's really not the best way to go, but in my case, they both have rigid bodies, so it works fine. It's not optimal, it's not good, it's not optimal, but in this case, we're writing something small, so it works fine. Yeah, so that's basically it. In the next video, I will be touching on actually having the UI respond when the player is dead. Like showing something like game over, and also having our player put up an animation of maybe death or just disappears from the scene to show that it's game over. And after that, we're going to work on getting our camera to follow our player, and after that, we'll work on generating infinite um, like having the game go on for as long as you want. So that being said, do have a lovely day ahead. Here it's late in the night already, so I'm going to bed. But wherever you are, else different from where I am, do have a lovely rest of your day ahead, and I'll see you in the next video.